False relationships can be challenging to identify, much like distinguishing a mirage from an oasis in the vast desert of human interaction. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence brings out your best version. In a world full of encounters and disconnections, where masks of cordiality and self-interest are skillfully worn, discovering who genuinely cares for us is an art that requires not only intuition, but also a keen eye. If this is your first time on my channel, I ask for your help by subscribing and liking the video. This way, I can continue creating more content like this in the future. Sometimes we end up believing too much in the kindness and goodwill of others, when what is really happening is that we are simply being used, much like an experienced gardener who knows how to distinguish between plants that nurture and those that absorb nutrients from the soil. We must learn to identify those who are true allies in our lives and also recognize emotional parasites. Therefore, we will now talk about subtle signs and less obvious patterns that reveal hidden intentions behind smiles and empty promises. If you're here, it's because you're interested in personal development, and in this content, we will discuss the wisdom of deciphering these human enigmas, lighting the way to more authentic and fulfilling relationships. Let's begin. Number 1. Diminishing comments. People who habitually use others as stepping stones for their personal benefit are experts in deploying diminutive comments as a tool of erosion. These comments erode self-esteem, confidence, and a sense of self-worth in their targets. These comments, sometimes disguised as humor or casual banter, are actually sharp hooks designed to bring down rather than uplift. They can trivialize your successes, mock your aspirations, or show disinterest and insensitivity to your struggles and challenges. This behavior is similar to subtle psychological warfare, as it typically undervalues, creating an imbalance in the relationship. It is a calculated move to ensure that you remain in a position of doubt and diminished self-esteem, making you more susceptible to manipulation and control. In their eyes, your diminished self-esteem elevates their status, consolidating their dominant position in the relationship. Moreover, such disdainful comments often reflect their own insecurities and feelings of inadequacy. By belittling others, they try to hide their own vulnerabilities and project a facade of superiority. This behavior is a clear indicator of their inability to establish healthy, supportive, and reciprocal relationships. Recognizing and understanding this behavioral pattern is crucial. It allows you to see through the superficial charm that these people often project and understand the underlying toxic dynamics of the relationship. It serves as a warning to address the behavior directly, set clear boundaries, or distance yourself from such a toxic environment. Number 2. Broken promises. The act of making and breaking promises can resemble a theatrical performance, where words are the actors and actions are the careless script. These people have mastered the art of verbal persuasion, painting vivid pictures of commitment and support. However, their words often lack the substance of action. They create expectations with the flourish of a painter, but when it comes time to turn these painted dreams into reality, they hesitate, revealing the emptiness of their assurances. In this type of relationship, a pattern emerges. When their support is needed the most, when their promise should be fulfilled, these people often disappear, leaving a void filled with disillusionment and disappointment. This absence in times of need is not just a breach of trust, but a clear indicator of their true motivations. Their promises are manipulation tools designed to extract value, trust, or support without the intention of reciprocity. The failure to keep promises then becomes a kind of test that distinguishes between those who value relationships as a two-way street based on mutual respect and support, and those who see relationships simply as avenues for their personal gain. For those left in the lurch, the experience often brings a painful but valuable lesson. Not all promises are built on honesty and integrity. Therefore, the failure to fulfill promises is a critical behavior to observe, understand, and identify people who may seek to use others. Number 3. Unilateral benefit. This can manifest in various facets of a relationship, whether financial, emotional, or practical. Financially, the user may borrow money or resources with promises of repayment or reciprocity that never materialize. Emotionally, they might depend heavily on the other for support, validation, and attention, offering little or nothing in return. When roles are practically reversed, they might constantly seek favors, help, or time, but be conspicuously absent or too busy when their counterpart needs assistance. Unilateral benefit resembles a parasitic relationship in nature where one organism benefits at the expense of the other. The user, like a parasite, gains nourishment, in this case emotional, financial, or practical support, without contributing equally or adequately to the well-being of their host. Over time, this lack of reciprocity can deplete the resources of the giver, whether emotional, financial, or temporal, leaving them drained and unfulfilled. The motives behind unilateral benefit are often rooted in deep selfishness and a lack of empathy. The user views relationships through a transactional lens, evaluating interactions based on what they can get rather than what they can contribute. This approach to relationships is fundamentally flawed as it overlooks the inherent value of mutual respect, support, and give and take. Identifying this pattern requires a discerning eye. It involves recognizing the persistent lack of reciprocity and the feeling of being consistently shortchanged in the relationship. It requires an honest assessment of whether the interactions make you feel valued and respected or used and underestimated. Number 4, disregard for your emotions or needs. This behavioral pattern, where one's emotional landscape is consistently ignored or devalued, is akin to tending to a garden where only one flower is allowed to bloom while others are neglected. In such interactions, the needs and desires of the user are prioritized, while yours are marginalized or dismissed. Their actions and words become the shears that trim your emotional well-being, making you feel underestimated and invisible in the relationship. This disregard can manifest in various ways. It may be evident in how routinely they overlook your emotional needs by not providing support or understanding in moments of vulnerability or need. It could also be noticed in their indifference to your opinions and choices, where your voice is silenced by their dominant narrative. They may ignore your achievements or, worse, downplay your struggles, minimizing the issues that deeply affect you. This behavior is not simply insensitive. It is calculated neglect, a tool used to maintain a position of superiority in the relationship. By invalidating your feelings and needs, the user creates an environment where your self-esteem is undermined, making you more susceptible to their influence and control. It is a form of subtle emotional manipulation, but with significant impact. This dynamic is especially harmful because it affects the very core of emotional well-being, the need to be heard, understood, and valued. When these needs are repeatedly ignored, it can lead to a decrease in self-esteem and a sense of isolation, even when you are in an ostensibly active relationship. To navigate these waters, it is essential to recognize the signs of emotional neglect. This awareness becomes a beacon guiding you away from relationships where your emotional well-being is at risk, empowering you to seek connections where reciprocity, respect, and mutual care are foundational pillars. Number 5, emotional manipulation. It often starts insidiously with the manipulator presenting themselves as attentive and caring. However, this facade quickly becomes a mechanism to induce feelings of anxiety, inadequacy, or guilt in their target. They become adept at pressing emotional buttons, praising you to uplift you when it suits them, and then criticizing or undercutting you sharply to create doubt and dependency in you. Consider the analogy of a gardener and a delicate plant. A careful gardener nurtures by providing just the right amount of water and sunlight. In contrast, the emotional manipulator, like a negligent gardener, alternates between overwatering and letting the plant wither from drought. They use emotional extremes to destabilize, creating an environment where the target becomes emotionally dependent, constantly seeking the manipulator's approval to regain that initial sense of warmth. This manipulation often targets the very core of emotional well-being. They may downplay your achievements or magnify your failures to keep you in a perpetual state of doubt. They might twist situations to make you feel guilty for normal actions, shifting blame to ensure that you always apologize. In relationships where there is emotional manipulation, the balance of power is always skewed. The manipulator maintains control, deciding when to offer affection and when to withdraw it, keeping their target in a state of emotional dependence. This dynamic is not about mutual growth or support, but about fulfilling the manipulator's needs at the expense of the other's emotional health. Identifying emotional manipulation requires a sharp awareness of these dynamics. It involves recognizing patterns of interaction where feelings are consistently manipulated and requires introspection to understand how these interactions affect one's sense of self and emotional well-being. Number 6. Lack of genuine support. Imagine a tree in a vast forest, ideally supported by the surrounding trees and vegetation, receiving nourishment, shelter, and the company of a thriving ecosystem. Now imagine a tree alone in an arid landscape with no other flora offering support or protection. This is similar to being in a relationship with someone who lacks genuine interest in your well-being. You find yourself alone without support, your branches seeking companionship that never arrives. In such relationships, your goals, projects, and challenges are met with apathy or symbolic gestures of support. This person may not oppose your plans, offer half-hearted good luck, or even verbally express support, but their actions or lack thereof speak louder when it comes to tangible assistance, meaningful advice, or even an attentive ear during tough times. The reason behind this lack of genuine support lies in their self-centered approach. Your successes or failures, your challenges or interests, only concern them insofar as they affect them or their objectives. They view relationships through a transactional lens where emotional investment is calculated based on potential personal returns. This attitude creates an imbalance where one party continually gives, be it effort, care, or resources, while the other receives. Identifying these patterns in a relationship is crucial for maintaining emotional well-being and fostering connections based on mutual respect and reciprocity. It allows you to navigate through deceptive behaviors and build relationships that contribute positively to your life. In conclusion, recognizing false relationships is an essential skill in the complex landscape of human connections. It requires a combination of intuition, self-awareness, and the ability to discern subtle patterns of behavior. By understanding the signs of diminishing comments, broken promises, unilateral benefit, emotional neglect, and manipulation, you can navigate the terrain of relationships more effectively. This awareness empowers you to cultivate connections that are authentic, supportive, and fulfilling, contributing to your overall well-being. As you embark on this journey of deciphering human dynamics, remember that genuine relationships are built on trust, respect, and a mutual commitment to growth and well-being. Number 7. Constant competition. Imagine a chess game where each move is calculated not only to advance one's own position, but also to systematically undermine the opponent. Similarly, a person who only seeks to use you will often treat your relationship as a strategic game. Each of your achievements, decisions, or even challenges becomes an opportunity for them to assert their superiority, whether by overshadowing your professional successes, surpassing your personal achievements, or subtly undermining your decisions. Their actions are motivated by the need to stay ahead in this self-imposed competition. This constant competition manifests in various ways. In a professional setting, they might try to overshadow you in meetings or take credit for your ideas. In personal relationships, they could minimize your experiences or achievements by often comparing them to theirs to appear more relevant. Even in casual conversations, there is a palpable background of trying to prove that they are better, smarter, or more successful. The root of this behavior lies in deep-seated insecurity and a distorted perception of self-worth, where their value is not measured by their own merit, but by being superior to others. This perspective turns every interaction into a zero-sum game where, for them to win, in this case, you must lose. It's a mentality where mutual growth is overshadowed by the desire to overcome and stand out. Engaging with someone who exhibits this constant competition can be emotionally exhausting. It creates an environment of perpetual tension where genuine collaboration or support is replaced by rivalry. Your successes are not celebrated, but seen as challenges to their dominance, and your struggles are not met with empathy, but as opportunities for them to gain an advantage. Identifying and understanding this pattern is crucial. It helps set boundaries and recalibrate the relationship, if possible, towards a healthier and more collaborative dynamic. It involves recognizing that the foundation of any constructive relationship is mutual respect and support, not an unrelenting race for superiority. Number 8. Absence in critical moments. This behavior pattern is like a tree that provides shade only when the sun is gentle, but disappears when storm clouds gather. In good times, when everything is going well, they are there enjoying shared light and possibly reaping the benefits of the relationship. However, when circumstances change, when challenges arise and support is needed, their presence diminishes, leaving you to face the storm alone. These people treat relationships as a convenience, a means to an end, where their involvement is evaluated based on personal benefit. Their support is superficial, extending only when it aligns with their interests or when there is something to gain. In critical moments, whether a personal crisis, professional setback, or emotional turmoil, their absence is palpable. It is during these moments when genuine support and empathy are needed that their true priorities and lack of commitment to the relationship are clearly exposed. The impact of this behavior on the person feeling disappointed can be profound. It fosters a sense of betrayal and disillusionment, undermining the trust and reliability that were thought to be fundamental to the relationship. Questions arise about the nature of the bond, often leading to a re-evaluation of the individual's role and value in one's life. Understanding this pattern is essential to recognize the nature of the relationship and the true intentions of the other person. It requires acknowledging that constant support, both in moments of joy and adversity, is fundamental to any meaningful relationship. The realization that someone is absent during your critical moments serves as a critical test that helps distinguish between those genuinely committed to your well-being and those in the relationship simply for their own benefit. You have now reached the halfway mark of the video. I congratulate you for trying to become a better version of yourself. And also, I humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just right mind over body, so I know you reach this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Number 9. Lack of reciprocity. Imagine a seesaw where one side is loaded with the weight of efforts, sacrifices and commitments, while the other side is light, devoid of equivalent contributions. This image represents a relationship lacking reciprocity. In such connections, you consistently invest time, energy, and emotions, striving to nurture and sustain the bond. In contrast, the contributions from the other person are minimal, often symbolic, or entirely absent. This disparity in effort can manifest in various ways. You may always be the one initiating communication and making plans, while their responses are lukewarm or uncommitted. Your continuous support and understanding may not receive the same level of empathy or assistance when needed. Even when sharing personal experiences and skills, you may be open and frank, while they remain reserved or disinterested. The reasons behind this lack of reciprocity are rooted in a self-centered approach to relationships. For the person who only wants to take advantage of you, the relationship is a convenience, a resource to be used as needed, without the intention of meaningful exchange. Their participation is calculated and conditioned to what benefits them, ignoring the needs and feelings of the other person. This approach goes against the essence of healthy relationships that thrive on mutual give and take, shared experiences, and a balanced investment of emotional work. Recognizing the lack of reciprocity requires a conscious observation of the relationship's dynamics. It involves asking whether efforts to maintain and grow the connection are mutually shared or ruthlessly assumed by you. It calls for an honest assessment of whether the relationship feels enriching or draining, equitable or imbalanced. Number 10. Betrayal. Betrayal in a relationship is like a crack in the foundation of a building. It may start small and go unnoticed, but over time, it can weaken the entire structure and eventually lead to collapse. Betrayal can manifest in various forms, from lies and deceit to deeper betrayals. A sign of betrayal is a lack of transparency and honesty in communication. If you discover that the other person is consistently lying or withholding information, it's a red flag. Trust is built on the foundation of honesty, and betrayal undermines that trust foundation. Another form of betrayal is a lack of emotional loyalty. If the other person is not there to support you in tough times, if they reveal your secrets, or if they undermine your efforts, it shows a lack of emotional commitment. Betrayal can also take the form of infidelity, whether emotional or physical. Betrayal in a romantic relationship can cause deep and lasting damage. Recognizing betrayal requires being attentive to warning signs and trusting your intuition. Do not ignore inconsistencies in behavior or sudden changes in how they treat you. Addressing betrayal involves open and honest communication. If you discover that you or the other person has been disloyal, it's crucial to address the situation with empathy and a genuine desire to understand the reasons behind it. However, it's also important to set clear boundaries and make decisions that protect your emotional well-being. In conclusion, identifying and understanding these behavior patterns in a relationship is essential for maintaining healthy and meaningful connections. It requires self-awareness, honesty, and courage to face the reality of the situation. If you recognize any of these patterns in your relationship, you are not alone. Taking steps to address these issues can be challenging, but is crucial for your long-term well-being. Whether setting clear boundaries, seeking the guidance of a professional, or making difficult decisions, prioritizing your emotional health is always valuable. Remember that you deserve relationships that support, nurture, and help you grow. Number 11. Selective availability. You are available, but they are not. Selective availability in this context paints a picture of a unilateral relationship, akin to a telephone line where only one party is always available. In this dynamic, you are permanently ready to listen, offer support, or lend a hand. Your emotional calendar and resources are open and easily accessible to them. In stark contrast, the availability of the other person is as rare as a comet in the night sky, occasional, unpredictable, and always on their terms. This discrepancy in availability is not simply a matter of busy schedules or conflicting priorities. It is a deliberate choice, a strategic stance adopted. The person is using the relationship. Their lack of availability serves a dual purpose. It maintains a convenient distance for them and puts them in a position of control. By limiting their availability, they create a dynamic where you are left wanting more, often feeling grateful for any time or attention they deign to offer. In such relationships, your efforts to connect or engage often meet with excuses, delays, or outright neglect. Texts may go unanswered, calls unreturned, and your needs unrecognized. When they do engage, it often coincides with their needs or agenda, turning the relationship into a one-way street where your role becomes more about convenience than being a valued partner. The emotional cost of this pattern can be significant. It fosters feelings of inadequacy as you begin to question the value of your contributions and your worth in the eyes of the other person. It creates a background of frustration and resentment as you realize that your efforts and availability are not reciprocated. Recognizing the pattern of selective availability is crucial. It involves taking a step back and objectively evaluating the balance between effort and availability in the relationship. It requires understanding that healthy relationships are built on the foundation of mutual respect, effort, and presence. Number 12, making you feel guilty. Imagine a scenario where guilt is like the strings of a puppeteer, pulling the benevolence conscience, guiding them down a path they might not voluntarily choose. The person using you knows how to pull these strings skillfully, leveraging your sense of responsibility, empathy, or fairness. They might frame requests in a way that denying them makes you seem insensitive or selfish. Alternatively, they could remind you of past favors or incidents, hinting at an unspoken debt that you are now obligated to repay. This tactic of inducing guilt is often subtle and insidious. It starts with small favors or concessions, gradually escalating to more significant demands. Over time, your boundaries erode, and your ability to say no diminishes, leaving you trapped in a cycle of guilt and compliance. The needs and desires of the other person take center stage, while yours are pushed aside or completely disregarded. The effectiveness of this tactic lies in its ability to exploit a fundamental aspect of human nature, the desire to be perceived as good, helpful, and compassionate. By making you feel guilty, the user distorts these virtues, turning them into control levers. You find yourself doing things not out of genuine desire or mutual respect, but out of an imposed sense of obligation, often feeling resentful or drained. Recognizing when someone is using guilt to manipulate you is crucial to maintaining the integrity of your personal boundaries and emotional well-being. It involves being aware of the emotional currents in your interactions, distinguishing between genuine requests for help and attempts to exploit your goodwill. It also requires courage to question the motivations behind the requests and assert your right to say no without feeling guilty. Identifying and addressing this manipulative tactic is essential for fostering healthier relationships based on mutual respect, genuine care, and free choice rather than obligation and guilt. Number 13, lack of personal interest. Imagine a conversation as a street filled with the traffic of thoughts, experiences, and emotions flowing in both directions. In a healthy relationship, this street is alive with the exchange of mutual interest and care. However, when dealing with someone who simply wants to take advantage of you, this street becomes a one-way lane. Their stories and experiences drive the conversation, while attempts to steer the dialogue toward your life often encounter detours or dead ends. This lack of personal interest manifests in various ways. Conversations with such individuals often feel like monologues disguised as dialogues. They eagerly delve into the details of their daily lives, challenges and triumphs, expecting your attention and empathy. However, when the focus shifts to you, their interest wanes. They may respond with quick gestures, abruptly change the subject, or show visible disinterest or impatience. Your problems and experiences, regardless of their significance, barely seem to register on their concern radar. This behavior is not simply a lack of social etiquette or conversational skills. It is a deliberate indication of their priorities and intentions. By dominating the conversation and overlooking your stories, they establish a dynamic where their needs, opinions, and life take precedence. It's a subtle form of egocentrism where the relationship revolves around their axis and your role is reduced to being a spectator or a sounding board for their ideas. The impact of such interactions can be profoundly disheartening. It can lead to feelings of insignificance and frustration as the fundamental human need for recognition and understanding goes unfulfilled. Over time, this imbalance can erode the foundations of the relationship, making you feel more like an accessory in their life than an equal partner. Recognizing this lack of personal interest is crucial. It involves being aware of the dynamics of your interactions and acknowledging the emotional impact these one-sided conversations have on you. Evaluating if the relationship is mutually enriching or draining paves the way to seek more reciprocal and fulfilling relationships, where your stories and experiences are valued and respected as much as theirs. Number 14. Unilateral conversations. Imagine a scenario where conversations are like a street full of the traffic of thoughts, experiences, and emotions flowing in both directions. In a healthy relationship, this street is alive with the exchange of mutual interest and care. However, when dealing with someone who simply wants to take advantage of you, this street becomes a one-way lane. Their stories and experiences drive the conversation, while attempts to steer the dialogue toward your life often encounter detours or dead ends. This lack of personal interest manifests in various ways. Conversations with such individuals often feel like monologues disguised as dialogues. They eagerly delve into the details of their daily lives, challenges and triumphs, expecting your attention and empathy. However, when the focus shifts to you, their interest wanes. They may respond with quick gestures, abruptly change the subject, or show visible disinterest or impatience. Your problems and experiences, regardless of their significance, barely seem to register on their concern radar. This behavior is not simply a lack of social etiquette or conversational skills. It is a deliberate indication of their priorities and intentions. By dominating the conversation and overlooking your stories, they establish a dynamic where their needs, opinions, and life take precedence. It's a subtle form of egocentrism, where the relationship revolves around their axis, and your role is reduced to being a spectator or a sounding board for their ideas. The impact of such interactions can be profoundly disheartening. It can lead to feelings of insignificance and frustration as the fundamental human need for recognition and understanding goes unfulfilled. Over time, this imbalance can erode the foundations of the relationship, making you feel more like an accessory in their life than an equal partner. Recognizing this lack of personal interest is crucial. They may engage in frequent communication, share laughs, and even participate in what seems to be intimate conversations. However, this appearance of closeness never transcends into true meaning. This lack of genuine commitment manifests in various ways. You may notice that while they are quick to enjoy the benefits of the relationship, they also withdraw just as quickly when effort or sacrifice is required on their part. In times of need, their support is often shaky or non-existent. They may be present in moments of joy and celebrations, but noticeably absent during times of struggle or vulnerability. Furthermore, this superficial closeness often lacks key elements of trust and reliability that sustain authentic relationships. Plans may be made only to be casually cancelled, and promises are rarely kept. Their involvement in the relationship is often on their terms, guided by convenience and self-interest. The motive behind this behavior is often to maintain a circle of contacts that can be used as needed, without investing in the emotional effort that true relationships require. It's a strategy to keep people close enough to be useful, but not close enough to demand reciprocal commitment. In a sense, it is a way to secure oneself emotionally, gaining the benefits of closeness without the risk of real attachment or responsibility. Recognizing superficial closeness is crucial for understanding the dynamics at play in a relationship. It involves observing interaction patterns and questioning whether the perceived intimacy aligns with actions of genuine commitment and shared vulnerability. It's about discerning if the relationship is balanced in terms of emotional investment or tilted toward fulfilling their needs. It is a relationship characterized by a facade of intimacy that lacks the foundation of genuine commitment and mutual growth. Identifying this pattern allows you to seek and nurture relationships based on authenticity, reciprocity, and true emotional depth. Number 16. Continued lack of respect. Persistent lack of respect is more than an occasional lapse in judgment or a slip in the heat of the moment. It is a continuous thread woven into the fabric of the relationship and manifests in various forms. It can be derogatory comments, disdainful attitudes, or even blatant disregard for your feelings and boundaries. This behavior can be subtle, like a series of small cuts, or glaring like a wound that hurts your dignity. Imagine a garden where respect is the nourishment that helps relationships flourish. In its absence, what remains is a barren landscape where nothing healthy can grow. In such a scenario, every attempt at conversation or connection becomes a path filled with thorns of contempt and lack of consideration. The person showing this lack of respect uses it as a tool, consciously or unconsciously, to assert dominance or control in the relationship. It's a way to diminish the other, maintaining the upper hand in a dynamic where equality and mutual respect should prevail. This constant lack of respect deeply undermines the foundations of the relationship. When disagreements arise, instead of resolving them with understanding and empathy, they turn into battlefields without regard for emotional casualties. The normal flow of relationship dynamics is disrupted, making it difficult, if not impossible, to return to a state of normalcy and mutual respect. Understanding and recognizing this pattern of persistent lack of respect is vital. It involves looking beyond isolated incidents to see the broader behavioral pattern. It's about understanding that respect is not just about grand gestures, but is present in daily interaction, in small acknowledgements, and in how disagreements are handled. In conclusion, the persistent lack of respect in a relationship is a significant indicator of a person who does not see you as an equal partner, but as a means to an end. This disregard for your feelings and dignity reveals a fundamentally unbalanced and unhealthy relationship. Identifying this trait is crucial for anyone who values their self-respect and seeks relationships based on a foundation of mutual respect and equity. If you enjoyed our video, like it, subscribe, and comment so that YouTube knows that these types of videos are for people like you, and we can continue creating similar videos in the future.